Chris has.
Okay, here we go. I say we get started.
Yeah.
Everyone?
Pledge allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was nice, you said that all perfectly.
Together, I'm telling you. No delay. Nah.
For the men's chorus.
Yeah, right, we're yeah. All right, everybody, the meeting is, called, hey, we have a full complement tonight.
Yep.
Yes, we do, in person, we have everyone.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Bob Moses.
No, I'm sorry, Bob Moses, we're missing Bob. Bob is away.
You online? No.
No, he's on vacation. Yeah, really. All right, first order, let's take a look at the minutes from July 8th. Any, comments or corrections here?
I move they be approved.
I second it. Anybody? Discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that is,
I abstained because I wasn't here.
okay. One abstention, Michael Albert. All right, we don't have any plans to act on, and we do have a couple of other things which is why I really wanted to have tonight's meeting. First, we'll just say here, we'll go number 2 here, that we do have a joint meeting with the Smithfield supervisors to review and discuss amendments to the economic development zone. That's these, Robert, that you gave us here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think so too. I think that I was just going to say the same.
That's a good idea.
I was going to say the same thing. There's no way we're going to read through all this.
Yeah. This was largely offered by Ron. If you have any questions, just email me.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good. Yeah. What?
Well, I just have a question. We're supposed to review additional amendments. Do we know what these are?
Listed in the memo.
Yeah, so let me just speak
Okay.
to that.
Yeah. Okay.
Everything you have there are the additional, they're the same thing that you had months ago when it was, it's still the same.
Right, okay.
Okay.
So none of these are included. What's here? No,
All of it is.
all of them are included. Yeah.
Yeah, these are the new
Yeah,
amendments.
Mitch.
Right, there's no new, right.
Right, and I will say, just so it prevents any, overworking tonight or the next time, when we have the joint session, I'm going to, set up the agenda in a way that prioritizes fixes that, we would need to consider for the next, to get done soon, like things that there are blanks, or there's a couple things that are blank dollar signs or syntax, and mixed-use buildings are mentioned in 2 spots that are critical permitted uses and in the definition, but they're prohibited for the mixed-use, actual application in the beginning of ordinance, and omitted or something.
Okay.
So, that, and then the other item.
Yeah, the other items, like we kicked this around there, the percentage of residential, for example, that we realized, that came in. Okay. Well, then we'll take a look at, let's take a look at this for the August 24th meeting with it. So, get your comments together, everybody here.
Right.
I have a question. There's 2 big stapled here. Is one the old, one the new? What are we looking at?
I don't know, I have it all paper clipped together, I'm not sure.
You gotta undo the clip.
Right.
There's 2, you have, what you should have is, in the right-hand corner, it says ordinance number 237.
Yeah, that's the one that's existing?
July 28, 2020, that's the existing, and then the ordinance that you have separately is the one that contains the revisions that are listed, not separately. The other ordinance contains the revisions that's listed on the memo.
So it's the old and the new?
Yes.
Or the old and the proposed?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the letters from Schneider highlighting problems, right?
Oh, dude.
Can I make a motion, we table this conversation until the August 24th meeting to provide time for the commission members
Yes.
to read on their own the detailed ordinance
Yeah.
they should do on their own time?
Yeah, I'll second that. Any other discussion at the moment?
So can we just give for myself?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm a little slow, and some of the new members, let's just discuss what the original intent of the ED is, why we made the big significant change. Can anybody handle that question? Because this is the ED's new, right?
Yes, it took the place of the boulevard zones.
Okay. Can we just give a little synopsis? Ron, maybe you can do that?
Well, the economic development zone was to help spur, as it says, economic development along, I believe, the 209 corridor and maybe in some other areas that need some, kick in the pants, if you will, and it allows mixed-use development, which generally you can only have one use on a property. If you have a lot, you can only have a single-family home on it, or, you can have a pizza shop on it. This allows mixed use where you can have retail use and residential use together. A good example is the initial mixed use ordinance that was developed for the Smithfield Gateway project. I think that was ordinance number 305 or 205 or something like that. But the bottom line is, if you look at the ordinance and you go to page 6, 7, and 8, it's showing you basically what you can do in these areas, which normally are relegated to either a commercial zone or a business zone or a boulevard zone. And again, as indicated in the ordinance that was adopted, this is basically repealing the ordinances that were in effect for purposes of commercial, the boulevard, and the C1, the M1, the B1, and the B2. So, that's really what's happening here. And,
I think also, if we go back to Tom committed, remember how this has evolved. We talked about form-based zoning and putting all these zones together so that you could essentially do any kind of commercial thing in one big zone. You know, growth that, trying to get a create boundaries, create one unit commercial zone in which a lot of people can get that. And it's called form-based zoning, really. This is.
So I don't know, if there's a few members that may remember, I want to say maybe 6 years ago, 8 years ago, what was Target Homes on Seven Bridge Road, somebody wanted to develop that or change the use, and they wanted to have like a car sales and hair salon, and I don't know, they had like 3 or 4 different uses they wanted on that one site. Is
By
that,
the library there, you mean?
No, Target Homes, that would be,
We're classic all new zone.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's currently classic
Oh,
quality.
that's right, yeah, the guy wanted to do the auto repair
Yeah,
place.
That was right before me.
so would the
Okay.
ED allow that type of operation where you had multiple businesses operating out of one building?
I think on parcel.
So, yeah, it does allow that, the version passed, last year, does allow,
Mhm.
2 uses on the property. And it does also allow it in the same structure. I think it is only 2 though. I don't think it permits you, I mean, if you have a large enough acreage, you could probably configure it how you want, but I don't think it would allow that specific type of configuration.
David,
Mm-hmm.
you remember the guy that came in wanted to have a auto shop, car sales and rental, and something else, I can't remember. Auto parts, that's right, right. So that would have been 3 uses, and what we said at the time, the ordinance would not permit that. So we basically said, no, that's too many uses on too small a lot, basically. But what you're asking is, could he have car repair and car sales
Sure you could.
in the same
Sure.
building?
That was the intent,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what you wanna have happen, and then it's of course subject to all the rest of the stuff, in terms of the rest of the engineering, in terms of the rest of the, impervious land, the rest of all, all the stuff that you would normally have, both, with both zoning and with subdivision and land development. Yeah, that's exactly what you'd wanna have happen.
And I think what he wanted to do was pre-owned cars, used cars.
No, whatever you
Well,
want
I'm
to do.
just trying to understand the original intent, which I do remember what we had talked about, where we're trying to create walkable villages, if you will. That was the original intent, which is why we liked it as Smithfield Gateway, because it was sort of giving us that. And that all started when, there was talk about developing the village of Marshall's Creek, back when Larry Simon wanted to do that development on Mountain Manor. They wanted to walk up the village. And that's what we were trying to promote. But does that then bring us into, and I'm just trying to get a framework in my head so I know how to read this thing. Does that then allow multiple businesses in one building on one lot? And I use a crazy example of a hairdresser, a shop, and a car sale. I mean, is that permissible? Is that something we want? Is that allowed in here? I'm not asking us to answer that question right now. I'm just trying to understand what we want as a commission.
I believe that you can do that.
Yeah.
In the current ED zone that was passed last year, that is possible. There are lots of requirements to be able to do that.
I think it's possible. Let me, when you say that, you don't want an answer now, I mean, I think it's answered by looking at the mixed-use building definition of the ordinance, that was adopted, and maybe the new ordinance. I'm gonna just check for a second and see if that is any different.
I just like to clarify.
Yeah, see, so, the mixed-use building and the ordinance is adopted on page 18 is far less descriptive than the mixed-use building on page 18 of the revised one.
Right.
The present one says a building designed to encourage a diversity of compatible land uses, which include a mixture of two or more of the following: residential, institution, civic, office, commercial, or retail use. The definition in the new ordinance basically says that same thing, and it goes on to say, and where long expanses of blank wall shall be avoided through the use of wall articulation, breaking the continuous plane of the wall shall be accomplished by blah, blah, blah. So it would appear that you could have more than two uses if it falls within that mixed-use definition.
That's on page 18, mixed use.
Page 18, mixed use, smaller definition on the ordinance is adopted, larger definition on the ordinance is proposed.
Okay, all right.
That's the definition of a mixed-use building. But where are mixed-use buildings allowed? They're not just allowed by right in an ED.
They are.
They are.
By right in the ED.
Yeah.
But here's why, in this, I didn't offer this for pennies, but one of the reasons I wanted to bring this up is because if you have, kind of, for example, 1 acre lot, and you want a restaurant, the ordinance, the intent of the ordinance to allow you to build, 4 apartments above it or something like that, but it technically doesn't, because the beginning of the ordinance omits it, though it includes mixed-use development. So, there's a big difference between the multifamily dwellings of Smithfield Gateway, which could be hundreds with a lot of commercial versus, one guy's restaurant with 4 apartments. That is inadvertently omitted from the, section 304, where it says prohibited uses. It allows, it prohibits residential in everything, in ED zone unless it is a,
Mixed-use development.
right,
Right.
or incentivized, mixed-use development,
Correct.
but not mixed-use building. So, even though mixed-use building is the principal permitted use that expressly permits the residential, it kind of can't be turned on because the beginning omits it.
Right.
So,
I remember reading that.
So really, what is the difference in the thing Ron just read, mixed-use building? What's the difference between that and a strip mall? It's under one roof, it's a bagel shop, a daycare center and a church.
It's allowed, and it was allowed in the business.
It was allowed before.
It was on before as well.
Right,
Right.
That,
yeah, so, I mean,
But that's not mixed use, though. Really.
it is.
It's more of the word of multiple uses.
more articulated, yeah. And then the wall articulation is the other difference in that, you know, the facade has to be different and aesthetically nice. Whereas the current, the old one doesn't.
So the problem,
That was my
I
piece.
I gotta rephrase it.
Well,
The
how
problem
to
with the,
legislate nice.
so, first
No,
of all,
That's not,
we're not here,
that's not what I did. Sorry, Michael.
is it okay for me to stop?
Yeah, go ahead.
The ED's already been passed, right? That passed a year ago.
Yep.
The problem with the current ED, or one of the bigger problems with ED, is that while it does say that mixed-use buildings are by right, at the beginning of it, it clearly says that you cannot have residential in another building, right? It basically defines, it doesn't say mixed-use building, but you can't do that. So you're trying to remove that part.
Yeah, well, not even change it, because of course we don't want people, you know, building up, you know, other, you know, single-family dwellings or something, but just to allow the mixed use as it was defined in, for mixed-use buildings.
So you still can't have a strictly residential in,
Right.
unless it's part of a mixed-use development.
Right, but the other problem that has to be solved in this, like, I don't know, for myself, so, gather, is that there's nothing that, prohibits someone, I think it was in a mixed-use building, of doing some sort of, you know, like 200 square foot office, and then, you know, right. We have to kind of make sure that there's some sort of,
Yeah.
some sort of, blend, you know, some places 25, some are 65, 35, we'll have to define that. I know Robert also asked someone else about land banks, but I think that's another part of the problem, though it's not the clearest one, because can't even do it as it is right now. You know, the thrift shop on 209 by JCL, you know, someone turns that into a restaurant. By right, they're supposed to be able to put apartments above it, and they can't get a permit for it, because it's precluded at the beginning.
Okay.
Mr. Chair. Just a point of clarification, the example that was mentioned earlier with the beauty shop and a car repair and I forget what the third was, that's not really a mixed use. Those are all commercial uses.
And they're all
Multiple
by right
uses,
anyway.
and they're all by right, that is one use. When you combine a commercial use with a residential use, which this permit, that is the mixed use. So, or if you combine the commercial with an institution, I'm not sure we'd want to do that, I don't even know what the ordinance says regarding that, but that would be combining two uses or a mixed use. So, different commercial uses together in one building, or, as you said, that's the same as a strip mall, that's really not a mixed use.
Does it count as a mixed use if there are two commercial uses, but one is by right and one is conditional? Is that considered a mixed use?
I don't think so. I think it's just that with the one, they must go through the conditional use procedure, and you are allowed to place conditions on that because of the type.
And that could be that the condition is you can't have it be in the same building as another.
That's right. It could be you may not want fireworks in the same building as a daycare center. Right, but yet it's still both a commercial use, so it wouldn't be mixed use, but one's conditional, one isn't.
Okay.
Well,
I wasn't sure about that.
But in my example, a bagel shop, a daycare center, and a church, there's three distinct separate uses. The church is institutional, no?
The church is institutional, but the other two I think the other two are the same.
Daycare is commercial?
Sure.
Okay.
I think it may be.
I wouldn't think of it that way. I would think of it as
Yeah,
schools.
even in the
No.
building code, it's a business.
It is, okay.
It's a business.
All right.
But I
So,
think
but-
what's important though is, I think, back to the conditional uses, the ones that we're particularly concerned about.
Right.
It could be the prerogative of the township to say, well, if if it's one of those, you can't put it together with another one.
Or how about unless by conditional use?
Well, but the condition placed on the use could be, you can do it, but you can't do it in the same building.
In the
Oh, I
same
know.
building.
You could do that, you can place that.
Oh,
as
I
a
got it,
condition.
I got it.
Yeah, 'cause
I
conditional
thought-
uses start as yes. It's yes with conditions, that's what,
Yeah,
that's,
the
right.
condition is-
it's a permitted use, but you can hang conditions on it, that's what.
And that's what, Ron, what you were saying earlier. One of the things that Tom Comita was talking about was reducing the paperwork and the legal mumbo jumbo that had to be done for someone to come in and get a permit to build something in this town. And one of the things we all thought was, well, there's conditional uses everywhere.
Yeah, we got rid of a lot of them.
We're doing them all the time.
No, we're not.
No?
We're not
Oh,
doing,
okay.
but in this new one, that we got rid of a lot of them in this new one.
We did, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
That
no.
was the other reason for doing
That
it,
was,
was to minimize the conditional use process so that
Yes.
it would be a less torturous path
right.
toward good development. No, right? I think that would be fair.
So mixed use was allowed prior to this
No.
ordinance?
No, it would, actually,
Smithfield Gateway it was.
in the gateway it was, with respect, that was
Well,
a special
how do you,
case.
how do you deal with an operation like Breweries, where you have a bar and above it you have a residential residence?
They're hotels.
I'm sorry,
It's a different township and it's a hotel, it's a different ballgame.
but how do you, so there's none of that in
None.
Smithfield?
It doesn't matter whether there is or not, it's not the same thing.
What about Minnesink?
It's a hotel. They have an H license.
The hotel.
The hotel?
Mhm.
That's why,
Yeah.
that's
They-
why they're.
Yeah, they have an H license. They have an H-class license.
Some of these things
So
are
Shawnee
also
has an
old.
H license, right? You have a hotel license.
Some of them are existing on.
Yeah, but I think it's an H, yeah, that's what I thought, yeah, right.
Correct. So now that is allowed by this
Probably one,
ordinance?
I think.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah, you can have a hotel.
No, but you can have, you can have an operation with a bar and a residence.
There are people who live up there.
Yeah.
Live up, yeah, they sort of, you stay on a weekly
Yeah.
basis, it's like a long-term stay, that's how they do it.
The same thing
Yeah.
as Minnesota.
Thing is, Deerhead,
Yeah.
Or Deerhead.
that's not our township, like,
No, Deer's not our township, but same thing, they have rooms.
same like.
Same thing, H license, H-class. All right, let's read it, we'll read it over to make the adjustments.
Yeah, this is good,
So for not wanting to talk about it, we did pretty good.
Well, that's okay.
Let's go on the table, see if we can vote on it now.
Oh, yeah, that's true, yeah, to table it, right, the motion to table is still out there? It was seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right. We'll table it, now we'll get to the
Were
other
we
thing.
just going through the agenda and we just started?
No, we're almost done.
Doing the agenda, but now we're going into fun.
We're almost done with the agenda, we're gonna
Well,
get
now
to
we
the
gotta
last
go back
thing.
to seven, right?
Yeah, we're gonna go back to it. I just wanted to kill off two things I thought would be shorter. Ken, thank you.
Thanks for
coming.
coming, Kenny.
Pull up a chair.
Sorry about last week, but, it's my wife's 60th birthday, and,
Okay.
Oh,
my boys decided we were gonna go to New York for the Mets game, which we got rained out anyway. But, tell my wife that I wasn't gonna be there for her birthday, you guys could've told her that.
Well, no, it's all right, I'm sorry to hear that, I'm a Phillies fan, I feel pain all over. It's okay. Ken, the reason I asked you today, all right, because as you can hear, we go over all this stuff, okay? And, I mean, you have 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 10 people we have here besides yourself that put significant time into these kinds of things. But yet we go through them all. And my concern of them has been and remains some enforcement. This isn't a criticism of you. What I'm saying is, we go through all this stuff, and we have these landowners and these uses who do whatever they want anyway. And I want some input as to how we can do some things. I think I said, I had a fit of frustration last month. I said, well, what the hell, I may as well resign, I don't even know why we're here. We review everything and then nobody gives a shit, basically. So, for example, the smoke shop at the highway exit, right? I know.
Let me stop you right there. Smoke shop, you guys referred to what the condition use put on there? That condition use is not there.
No, that's,
And as far as the light glare does not have anything to do with the zoning. So
what I just want to, no, it's okay. What I just want to, what I'm saying, again, this isn't attacking. This is just, I want to see how we could move on so we can enforce some of the things to stop some of the junky crap, like their truck that's been sitting there. I mean, I think the license plate fell off 2 years ago, and now they hung a beer sign on the side of that truck that doesn't go anywhere. That's basically their billboard. That's an example. And it's the same people that have the Pocono beer, you know, down at the end of Gapview Drive. You know, I come down my parents' house, I come down Gapview Drive, and boom, here's, you know, the lights are right here. I don't even remember seeing anything, to be perfectly honest with you, on lights that maybe even come through the land development, but that took so long for it to be developed out. What I want to say is, how can we get past this impasse and pick a couple of things? I'm not here to hammer residents. What I'm here to do is snap a few things.
Is whenever we do these ordinances, make these recommendations,
Yes.
you gotta make it so that it's enforceable.
Okay.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff I can't enforce because I have no way to enforce it.
Okay. Well.
For example.
Yeah. Help me out here, because if we're going to revise this, let's do it so we can put some teeth in it. What would you need, for example? Any idea?
No, it all depends on the situation, because whenever you make up. How can this be enforced?
Okay.
That's what I'm saying, it was. We got through the ordinances and we get time to do it tonight.
That's okay.
There's things in there that, okay, well, I'm not supposed to force that. And there's been things in the past that probably haven't made it in the ordinance book, that was like to be in the ordinance book, that wasn't a way that can be enforced.
Well, let's go back to the lighting issue at the smoke shop. I mean,
Okay.
we, every job that comes in here, or every project that comes in here, we tell them we don't want lights with glare, we want down lights, no floodlights. Isn't that in the ordinance that they can't have lights with glare?
And there's no glare there.
There was. It's still not good, but there was. It was. All they did was point the lights down.
Exactly.
Right. Which, in my opinion, still is not good, because it still does produce some glare. But here, as it may, that was a violation.
Well, how's it a violation? Because the ordinance states you can't have so much glare. How am I gonna measure the glare?
Okay.
Oh, okay, I get your point.
See, now that's one of the important to look.
Yeah.
All right. Sure. Then let me pick a different example, because
I don't even know that. How, because we review these things
Well-
all the time with lights, I don't know how you measure.
I can help you.
There's a meter for lumens.
Measure lumens.
We have to have one, and I have to be certified to use it.
Okay.
Okay. It's just like,
Okay, I didn't know that.
yeah, like whatever, Head Monster Factory, whatever it was back here. One of the conditions was that, there's gonna be so many decibels away from the lot line. How do you measure? And then I find out
Sound level meter.
there's several different decibels and there's different readings of
Okay.
things, so that's the kind of thing I'm referring to there.
Yeah, you were gonna say, John, you were gonna say?
I was gonna say with the lighting on a land development plan, you require the developer to submit the manufacturer and the type of lighting that he's going to use. And we make him do an isolux line to demonstrate that if he uses that light, is it gonna go across the property line? How much glare is it gonna do? So do you check when they put a light up, that they have in fact put the light up that has been approved on the land development plan?
The make, the model, and the
Well, in this
energy.
situation here, the computer, the cigar store, there's no way of knowing for tonight.
It was, I believe, I remember reviewing it because we commented on the traffic circulation there.
You were talking about the conditional use for the drive-through. There is no drive-through.
It was.
There is not now, because whenever the previous person that put drive-through in, when they left, they took it with them.
Okay, but we still approved the lighting on that
Or
plan at that
conditional
time.
use. There's no conditional use there now.
Well, let me ask you a question. If we approve the lighting for the use on that property, additional use, then someone left, what makes the condition go away?
Because they took the condition with them.
Well,
They took the drive-through with them.
well, first of all, the conditions run with the land. They don't go anywhere.
The condition was for the drive-through. There's no drive-through, therefore that conditional use is no longer there. So if somebody wants to put another drive-through, when they ask for another conditional use, well, maybe not the DVDs on the.
All right, let's talk about the illegal Airbnb that's been running at the end of my lane for the last 4 years.
First of all, I didn't know about the 4 years ago.
No, I know that. No.
I started investigating. My problem I got right now
Yes.
is I can't get hold of Nicholas. He has an
Okay.
address in Florida, I have, you don't have that address. I did get a phone number, there's no other answer phone number.
So we actually have a legal service problem. Okay.
Because when I sent,
So Ron, what do we have to do?
when I sent the notice to the house, it comes back. And the house is still, apparently dancing.
Yeah.
So I got the address from the house, well, from the property next door, which he probably owns.
Mm-hmm.
That's in his wife's name, this is in New York.
It's in the ex-wife, yeah, no, I have all the deeds.
Oh, next time, I wasn't even realize it was the ex.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Now, the trouble with that particular one, the one that the ex has, is that's where his illegal uncovered septic is.
and I did send an SU out there.
Yeah.
I think I gotta check this, I think the one I sent out, one might be the one we have now.
Okay, because, I mean, I know you can't have a septic on opposite lots that aren't owned together. And to be honest with you, about 3 weeks, the only thing that really came front and center is the guys waved when they were shoveling out the grinder that must have gotten filled up with condoms and tampons or whatever. They were in there, they waved at me as I was driving home, because they're in the pit there for the illegal uncovered septic. I'm like, this has been, and so this has been, these are the kind, you only need to pick a few examples. If you pick, and we talked, you know, with length, and I even found an ordinance, and we kicked around an ordinance, say, for, the dilapidated buildings, which is one of the things that was on here, but it's all in the same thing. Come to find out, I did not know that we had a dilapidated buildings ordinance in it. I didn't realize we had it in as part of ours. Again, I'm not saying to spawn 6 or 8 separate pieces of litigation. What I'm saying is, between you and Ron, is there a way that we could spawn a couple of enforcement that would show others that we're serious? Again, we spend all this time looking over all of these plans, and, you know, in some cases, years, things like Gateway and whatnot, for all of this. But clearly, like the Airbnb and the unregistered vehicle billboard, they are simply giving the middle finger to the township because they don't care about us. They're just going to run and do whatever they're going to do until somebody smacks them in the nose. All it takes just a couple of enforcements. What do we have to do that? I know I'm not an elected supervisor, I'm appointed in an advisory board, but it's frustrating to go through all of these things that we have and then see, you know, that, you know, our volunteer work, you know, that we do on this is, you know, gets ignored.
You know, as a lawyer, and I have to be here, you comment that zoning officer has the right to issue enforcement notices if there are violations of the zoning ordinance. Now, I think the B&B would be a violation of the zoning ordinance and getting service on whomever. I'm sure we could do that one way or the other, but that's how you would do that. We had a couple, short-term rental matters heard.
Yeah, there was one actually at the top. There was one on Franklin Hill Road several years ago when we first put it in.
Well, of course,
you did.
We won.
Yes.
We won them. So, I mean, that's there. Now, as to, the lighting or those other things, I'm not sure, but I agree. Pick 1 or 2 or 3 items that are the most egregious, and let's do something about it.
Right. I mean, so Ken, you obviously don't, you don't work for us. I mean, we're the appointed board. Is this something you guys would be interested in having a little bit of enforcement? Not dropping Thor's hammer. I'm talking about, we're going through a lot of work. Look, you guys went through to pick out technical corrections and such in this. You don't want to be ignored either, I think, right?
Sure, and, since I've, been here since, beginning of last year, I've noticed that, it's not just, a will issue, but it can be some of the tools
Okay.
So,
I don't understand what you just said.
okay, well, so, for example, Ken's gonna, several $1,000s give us that that would hold up in court. The
Okay.
same thing with Blue, so we would have to acquire those and then pay for certification. So, given the light return to normalcy, that's something we can pursue, for next year's budget, that's,
Sure. Then if I may interrupt briefly then maybe that's not the one you start with. Maybe you start with the ones that don't require that, the extra bit of technical information. I didn't realize that we didn't have lumen and what will be involved in that.
Let me.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Ken and I have had this conversation probably a dozen times. What are you gonna do about this? What do you do about that? And then Ken generally says, very clearly to me, and said several times, well, what do you want me to do? In other words, look into their back tax records to see if how many people are living in the building and find out whether they're related or not. Find out, what do you want me to do? Go by there and take down the license numbers of the 12 cars that are parked perpetually in the driveway and find out who those people are specifically and how they're related to each other or not? I mean, it becomes this enforcement that we speak of so lightly sometimes, no, not lightly.
No.
That we refer to is, in practice, with one guy, not that easy a job. In fact, it's very difficult, and what's frustrating, I don't mean to interrupt or put words in your mouth, but Ken has told me several times. You get the citation, the guy comes in, he goes into the magistrate's office and finish that sentence,
Well, normally I'd say it takes 3 or 4 months to go to the magistrate office, but as of right now, since COVID, I got citations from over a year ago.
Is that right?
I heard that.
Okay, so they come in and they get heard, and then a lot of times, if I'm reading Ken right, the judge either says, go fix it, right? And save everybody all kinds of trouble and effort. Or he tells them, you gotta pay a fine. The guy pays the fine.
$25, $30.
Yeah, $25, $30, and nothing gets fixed. Nothing changes. It's scofflaw.
The deal with that, however, Doug, is
Yeah.
that the supervisors, and I'm not laying any wood on the supervisors, but the supervisors have to say, do we want to spend money going after these people? Because the way you get them now with a citation, an injunction.
Yes.
Monroe County Court, and the court can shut them down. When they have that kind of pressure upon them, now they start coming to Jesus, if you will.
Right.
But that has to be authorized by the supervisors,
And that,
You beat me to it.
That
That was
involves-
gonna be next.
that involves you.
Oh, yeah, it
High-powered law.
involves me too, and that
lawyers.
involves a lot of work, but that's the job. I mean,
Right,
if the
yeah.
job was easy, anyone could do it,
Do we have enforcement funds in the budget?
I don't know that, I'm not a supervisor.
Well, I mean, what I'm hearing you saying is that our supervisors don't enforce the ordinance.
No, I'm saying the
No.
supervisors have to authorize me to act. I cannot act on
Right.
my own.
But that's the same thing.
No, it's not.
Nor can Ken.
No, it's not.
Right.
with all due respect, I wouldn't come here and question, that type of thing. I think that when you have sat here for a while and understand that it does take a lot of time and money, and, you can't blame, the people that got here and elected in 19 or 15 or 2005. You have to look at the totality of the picture and, yes, we're pursuing, budget talks in the next 2 months so we can start to put together a picture here, but it takes time. And, I can only speak for myself, but of course, I see problems here and I want to put money for the solution. But I don't insist that I'm not doing my job or things like that. I think you have to look at it from, the other perspective, which is, we have limited funds. Things are starting to change now with, the increase of federal dollars and, working from home and stuff like that. So we're working on a solution, but I don't view now as the time to say, X isn't doing their job. I view it as a time to hear what your thoughts are on a solution before
Okay.
calling that there's a problem.
Before we-
So I'm listening to that.
be hammering stuff like that out, I'm sure. But tonight, I bring tidings from, I think, almost everyone, and also a lot of my neighbors, who are frankly tired of seeing this township get degraded. I get pretty passionate about this, but it's happening all over. And you guys do have the power. Okay? Now, you have the budget. I know it's complicated. I know you gotta fund this stuff. My urgent wish is for you to figure out a way to fund it, and help Ron do that job that he just outlined for you, with Ken's help, because Ken is the guy that's on the beat. He's the beat cop.
He's the field investigator.
He's the field investigator. He needs the gas money, the wherewithal, the time, and maybe even some help to get out and around in this community. When we attended Robert, you remember the symposium we went to with Ken? I asked at one point during the discussion for a show of hands of zoning officers who actually patrol their districts. And Ken, you probably remember, I think it was about 4 out of a dozen said that they did. The rest of them didn't have time to, didn't have the resources, didn't have the extra help in the office. So they had to wait until they got complaints from neighbors. And that's not a proactive approach. But at the very least, when Ken goes out, usually on a call on a complaint, and he comes back and he files the complaint, he files a citation, he cites the individual, the offender. That individual then has to come to the magistrate. At that point, that's when Ron.
I have not attended a citation hearing in many years.
Not that you would. I mean, I don't know if you would. But if,
again, it depends upon the nature of the violation. As the chair just said, if you have raw sewage going out on the ground, going on the street, going to other people's property, that's something you gotta deal with right away.
Right.
And you have to say, well, we don't care if we're gonna spend $5,000 for the solicitor, we need to go get that done. Now, if it's a light glare, and it's not meant to be a comment what Dave said, drop 10, $5, $6 grand to stop light glare when, maybe that's not a big issue. I don't know that, but that's
the value judgment.
Decisions have to be made by way of, what is the issue in question and how much is it worth throwing money at to solve? And I think we as lawyers do that every day.
We do.
I think what Jake is also subtly trying to say is that a lot of things are ignored.
It's true.
And, it's only in the past year with Julia being hired, with us, or trying to operate in a way that we're sort of trying to organize this.
Yeah.
Get to problems that have been there for a long time.
Right. Sure.
And another thing that I, just hearing this, I think we should look at in the budget is whether we should have some arrangement with, out-of-state counsel, probably in New Jersey and New York, so that if we do have to cite people, we have somebody who can, deliver those citations. Because right now, there's just no way to reach it.
If,
we don't have an address, nobody's gonna be able to do anything anyway.
well,
Is that how that would work?
yeah, sort of. There are
You would have to do your
ways of
best
special service around it.
to
Yeah.
try to determine where the person is. Check with post office, check tax records, check meters, et cetera. If you've done all of that, and you still are coming up dry, you could probably go to court
Yes.
and get service by way of publication, by just putting in the newspaper.
Posting and publication and.
At that point.
How does that work with the board?
Well, no, because it doesn't depend on him. It depends on now you're taking action against the property owner, and then you can take the next set of steps and you can chain it up. But what I want to view it more positively, right? What you're hearing tonight is, collectively, however many years of frustration that's bubbling. I want to look at it slightly differently. I want to look at it almost as broken window zoning. In that, when you started to pick a few of those things, you will get better mixed use stuff that'll come into your, and it will make your township better. So you're not going to have, you know, the 70-foot-long strip mall that looks ugly as hell with a church on one end and a daycare that's changed names 4 times on the other end. Okay, you're gonna get better stuff because it will begin to look better. It's not an overnight process. But I really, you ought to use the phrase if you want. I mean, you know, God knows it's not mine, you know, but the broken windows thing. That's why I'm just saying, we can, perhaps it's something, I think, to pick a few.
I agree, and John, and to everybody, I think that's important that I will say, I can't, you know, as a supervisor, individually correct.
No, I know that.
Correct investigation, but, you know, I think that's important, and I also think, I would like to, you know, see more staff. I will say we just had to buy a new truck for $100,000.
Okay.
That happened, but, you know, I think that will help lead to a better situation there. I think, you know, the census numbers came out today, we're just under 8,000 people now, and I would suggest there are even more now.
More like 12, okay.
Yeah, I would suggest it's much higher. So having one, you know, like we say, one guy on the beat for that many people is tough. You know, I'm making no suggestion about, you know, how to change your job overnight, but I'm saying that, you know, to let Ken have more time to do that, you know, there might be other things that have to change in the office. And,
okay.
You know, I think, like you said, we're hearing 15, 20, you know, years of pent-up frustration. You know, I ran on the premise of doing something instead of including things, so I'd like to continue that, and I appreciate hearing everyone's thoughts on it. I don't think I'm, you know, judging anybody or, you know, suggesting.
I just look at my community, the type of people live in my community. Ken knows my community. You come into my community, they're ready to shoot you. They're all New Yorkers. They don't have the country mentality of working along. And I'll tell you, the magistrate is one of your problems.
Yeah.
I've come in here many a times, because I used to be on the board, bring people here, haven't paid assessments in years. And he looks at me and says, well, I ain't making them pay. That's where you get frustration.
Yes,
So if you want to help us all out, next time we have elections, or give us the,
I always do.
because that is one of my biggest problems today.
And that's why.
well,
If finally you can go to court, if the judge says, okay, it's gonna be a $30 fine, what are you gonna say? Oh, shit, come on, keep on doing it, I'll pay another $30.
you file an appeal.
Exactly.
You know?
Then you have to get with the supervisors to ask about filing an appeal. Yeah, Mitch, you've been
Well,
jumping in, I know, I want to make sure.
I want to ask my first question that did not get answered, and then I have a second question. The first question is, do we have money in the township budget as a line item for enforcement?
Every supervisor, whatever you can do.
Have to look at the specific, target account on that. I know there is money for planning and zoning. I don't know if there's a specific item that says, enforcement.
So we don't know. I mean, because what I hear is we're not enforcing it because we don't have the money and the effort that buys to back it up, okay? And the second question is, how many citations have been issued in the last 12 months or in the calendar year 2020?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Probably by the, 18.
Okay, so 12 or 18, do we have a list of those and what has happened with them?
Well, I'm saying without with nothing, because nothing's being heard downstairs.
Okay.
That's all backed up.
A couple of them, like I said, the notices out, we did get the issue resolved. There's still some on my groups, still there.
So some of them have been resolved
Yes,
successfully?
yes.
Dave first.
Add something to your question?
Sure.
Oh, it's the same question, but just a continuation. How many of those, how many were issued from complaints, public complaints?
75, 80% of them.
Okay.
Almost all, yeah.
All right. Yeah, Dave?
I just don't like, Mr. Morgan's, I'm still working on it.
Okay.
I just wanted to, sort of reiterate what Scott started off by saying, is that, you know, where we're at right now is a built-up frustration on the planning commission for probably a lot of years. I've always sat at many meetings saying, like, you know, we go through this process and then they end up doing whatever they want anyway. Or, in an example where it doesn't come through the planning commission because, like Boom Motor Lodge. I mean, that didn't have to come forth because it was an existing use and they just reactivated it. But it clearly doesn't meet the intent of the zoning because it's not, transient, it's not a motel, it's permanent residence. And they've got floodlights all over the place, and it looks like shit. I hate to pardon my French, but it looks terrible.
And Russ was working on that also.
Yeah, but that's where our frustration comes in, and we're all vocalizing it now, and we know that you guys have got a lot on your plate, you know, writing ordinances and doing stuff, and you really haven't heard the urgency of where you are saying it now, so please don't be offended. We just want to see some action.
Let me tell you my frustration. I finally get somebody in here doing 50 years from government legislating. Nobody told, oh, I don't see why you're here. Just go ahead and do it. Well, first of all, he's here because Dr. Forney says he has to be. DEP says he has to be. FEMA said he has to be. The Conservation District said he had to be. And then just don't go do it. Now he takes that literally saying, okay, I don't have to go get zoning permits. And that's the situation I got right now with this guy.
This is the Boom guy you're talking about?
No.
Oh.
This is 1836 Loon.
Oh, yeah. You and I briefly talked about the other motel, you know, there's the Boom, which we were talking about. Then there's the other motel up by the vet.
Paramount.
Paramount. And you were telling me something about that. That's also short residence, right? You said he was gonna
Last
discontinue.
conversation I had with him is no more than 30 days. And he told me this is, tomorrow he's evicted his first person.
Is that right?
Now, this was Wednesday.
Oh, but he hasn't evicted anybody.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to continue and say, you know, we need to work closely, or you need to work closely with the supervisor. Maybe you are or you're not, I don't know. But if you have things that you can't enforce because it's not properly written in the ordinance or you don't have the tools, you need to let us know so that we can try to find a way to make it easier for you.
Yeah.
So please keep the communication open with us. As far as a light meter or sound meter, I could probably get that at my office and I can help you out with that.
Well, I was told, shut up, don't worry about it.
Well,
A while ago.
and the other question I had is...
Wait. I'm sorry. Who told you that?
Well, it was a supervisor, and it wasn't one of the two that's here.
Oh, well, there can only be one. Okay.
So another question I have is, I keep hearing, or is it the justice, or what's it, magistrate?
Yeah.
Is there any way that we could arrange a meeting with him and ask
No.
for him?
Your mom?
You can't really have a meeting with the judiciary.
No, you can't do that.
Right.
You can't have a,
You can't because it's not ethical, or you
Yeah.
can't? No.
Yeah. I'll just be as frustrated with them. I'll tell the state police this area.
Oh, yeah.
What I think you have to do, I think if you're gonna do the zoning enforcement is, whichever ones you're gonna pick, you're gonna pick with an eye knowing you're gonna have to appeal no matter what. So you pick carefully, you do your thing, and then the supervisors and you and Ron talk about where we gotta go from there to have the right amount of evidence. I think that's fine. You just have to know that no matter what happens, you're gonna get a bad result here, so you gotta get someplace that they're gonna read it. I mean,
Well, here's my question.
I've had that happen too many times in my life.
How can I appeal to a higher court if I win the case?
You may not necessarily like the result, like you may,
Well,
like the fine could have been,
that's the problem.
the fine is, that you could have had a fine up to $300, but instead they issued a fine of $20. Well, that's clearly de minimis, that's not a thing. Your mechanisms in order to do that. I'm not here to step on Ron's toes, but we, you know how we are in these meetings. Ron and I go back and forth on many things like this. But it's just, I'm glad we had the talk. Because it.
My wife says that to me all the time.
Yeah, right. Okay,
It's broken windows still.
Yeah, it's broken windows.
Also, after we get through ED amendment, the next thing up is signage.
It does.
Ken and I have gone over the entire ordinance with the idea of, okay, what's enforceable? What should we have here? What should we get rid of because it's not enforceable? The same, things you're talking about.
Okay.
So, we're working it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just one quick one. What was it called, Act 90? There was a slum clearance, act that the General Assembly passed and handed down, and we had a seminar on it, Robert, you and I and Brian sat here and watched the thing. And it was, a webinar on how do we use it. Blight and rehabilitation, that's it. So why don't we couple that with what Scott's been talking about, with the specific ordinance that he's showed us, and try to make something work there? That's something that you guys could.
Get another broken windows.
It is the broken windows.
It is, but that's like a big picture window compared to some of the smaller ones. It's harder to take somebody's structure down than it is to force it. So, I mean, I can appreciate that aspect just from a township management standpoint. You gotta pick a couple of smaller, more visible ones to start with. And then, you deal with the old Milford Manor that's rotting into the ground and being taken over by the North American jungle over there.
When we serve got an idea of everyone at D, we should make a list. Let's start with those.
Get a ream of paper.
Can I ask a quick question, sort of related? I mean, what I'm hearing, hear frustration on this side, because there's a feeling that stuff isn't getting done. But I also hear from Ken that he's doing a lot of these things, not getting anywhere with them. Is there, I assume there's the last thing I wanna do is recommend some extra work. I'm just wondering about how reports of ongoing efforts, I'm not saying homework or anything like that, I really honestly don't think we should do that. But I'm just wondering, it seems like it's more of a communication thing to know that, all this stuff's being done and this one's waiting on the magistrate and this one didn't, I don't know if that would be helpful for the township overall. I mean, is that stuff in public record? If I wanted to go and hunt down whether someone got a citation, can I do that?
There's definitely, I think we need to hire another person, as Julie, I think we can do these kinds of things, because there's just not enough liaison.
How about somebody to help Ken?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're not just a little small, really basically a small township anymore. You gotta have a little staff.
It's gonna get worse when we had Smithfield Gateway.
Oh, boy.
People there.
Township received a letter about a year or so ago saying that it could be a first class township if it wants to be.
Right.
I think the township is
With population.
It may be changing rapidly, I don't know, but I think we're sort of finding that we're sort of, let's call it, rural and urban. And that urban part seems to be growing, and we need more ways to control it and have good growth. And I think the township needs more personnel and needs more structure than it's ever had.
It's gonna have to come.
Like the old Lenny Bruce bit.
Good night, Robert, take care.
The old Lenny Bruce face full of crap bit? There we are.
All right, everybody.
Yeah.
We have one more item on the agenda, didn't we?
No, that was it.
What are we supposed to talk about, the Marshall's Falls?
That
letter.
That'll be September.
Oh.
We're okay with
But we got the thing from you.
I didn't want to overburden anybody, because I only had a couple
Okay, it's not on the agenda, I just.
You can certainly discuss it, but
The money.
The grant must.
apply for.
It's gotta go before the commission.
How much?
The other time, you guys have to approve it, give your blessing.
I recommend.
Did you write the grant?
I'd like to make a motion, wait, help me out.
Hang on. Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion, the planning commission recommend
2021 Marshall's Falls Phase 2 DCED LSA grant application.
as prepared.
Second.
Question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fabulous idea. I love Marshall's Falls. I've been going there since I was a kid.
Yes.
My question is, how do we police it? How do we monitor it? I mean, there's tons of graffiti there, there's litter. If you open it up even bigger, and it becomes, another menacing park where they're in there having picnics and leaving their barbecue behind.
Well, that's another, area I think there are more, personnel, at least on part-time basis, go keep watch, rather than just throw out the trash in the next, go witness it. I know Stroud Township will do something, with that. I'll also say, that it's not, requesting, your recommendation on approving the application, it's recommending that you guys, or approving a letter coming from you guys saying it complies with the township plan, just kind of like the last one.
Oh, like the last one? Yeah, do that one.
Okay.
Change it.
Who wrote the letter?
I have a motion.
Ron has
Do we have a
it.
second?
Oh, okay,
We did, but
I second,
I'm gonna amend my motion
okay.
to,
Yeah.
I motion that we prepare a letter, recommending, is that right? Prepare a letter,
Yeah, that was like,
That the
Supporting
application,
the application.
okay, we prepare a letter supporting the application.
just like the last motion. I mean, just,
It's the last, like the last two or
For the-
three, you guys.
like the last couple of.
I have a question, which is, can you throw in that budget like an escrow for some maintenance?
So, as part of the grant, like, EPCs,
it's not the way that.
and they
No,
don't really allow that?
they don't
No,
allow
we have increased, funding for parks maintenance. This year it was $30,000. In contrast, the previous park budget overall was $45,000. So now we're getting there in terms of maintenance, to place that playground over there, waterfront, so we're getting there with the maintenance.
See, that's,
If we were to get the whole amount of this grant, we have between $950 and $1 million committed to Marshall Falls between grants, and only a fraction of that is township matches, so we're not even spending a lot of our own tax dollars on it.
Well, I wish the state would cough up for Mountain Manor, the whole thing.
They might, that's how we're taking down, the buildings at Marshall Falls through the blight grant money.
Yeah, okay.
I don't remember what tax number, it might be the one.
It's Act 90, I'm sure, yeah.
With the redevelopment authority on our county, we got money through that to take down,
Great.
3 outbuildings this year, and then next year we're applying to take down, the house itself.
And maybe the motel too, but anyway, just joking, because there's people living there.
so going back to my, start of my comment is, my concern is, that we're doing all these wonderful parks, but they're not being maintained. And you'll see in the meeting minutes that I commented on it last time, there's stuff growing out of the gutters in the park building over here. And when you take a walk on the trail at Menacing Park, half the trail is literally covered with weeds 4 foot high. Yeah. So my point is, if we're gonna spend $1 million on Marshall's Falls, we better have money in the budget for maintaining it and also monitoring it, that people don't trash it. And, if you talk to the National Park Service about what's going on at Raymondville Falls, they're up there every
day.
week with dumpsters picking up trash, and that's just not,
It's a disaster.
it's really not good.
What's the insurance liability? I guess Ron would probably know this than you would. But what's the insurance liability, for example, for a kid drowns in the Marshall's Falls or in the creek? Or up at the, what's that park up there on the hill?
Mount Nebo?
Those are all,
Mount Nebo.
those are all assumed risk things.
They are? Own risk. You mean, enter at your own risk?
Yeah.
Is that just unspoken?
No.
You're not allowed to go from there, and they are bilingual sign calls.
We also have governmental immunity issues where the township is only exposed up to a certain amount of money.
Sovereign immunity.
Okay.
Yes, that's definitely a concern, and as we get in the next budget season, I'd like to increase funding for this type of thing. Because presently, we only have one guy that's part-time that works 3 days out of the week, taking out all the trash, which we've been fortunate, since we actually used to have some issues down over here with,
Oh, yeah.
alcohol and all that stuff. As soon as he was able to post new signs, all that stopped, and they, actually use the trash cans and stuff. So we're getting there, with that, and,
I'm just saying, be conscious of, the burden that you're creating by having another park like that.
yeah, for sure. And, the biggest thing, the Scots need to protect their own property, their own parking lot. You know, they cannot just, assume that we're going to, you know, help them out or that the state police is going to. They have to put up their own barriers and things like that so people don't enter that way. I know that when we're under construction, formally, my intention is that, you know, fencing would be
The whole thing.
from getting in. Yeah, but it's really dangerous. Someone made videos of like inside the house when they were like cleaning it out.
Oh, man.
Very terrifying. I wouldn't want anybody going in there.
Yeah, right, I bet.
Yeah,
Walking on that road is not good either.
right.
That road is very dangerous.
Narrow.
And that's exactly the thing, and that's what we're working on now, is getting the highway occupancy permit. I don't wanna take away more time from the guy.
All right, all.
We have a vote on that motion.
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're done.
This came out in the mail, was this something we were supposed to deal with tonight?
No. What did you get?
Application for public hearing.
Where'd you get this?
I have no, where did you get that?
Where did you get this?
It's in my email.
You got a hell of an email.
Who's
I didn't.
What is that stack of stuff you got?
Good
That's my
stuff.
business.
What's it for?
What's the date on it?
Smithfield Township, application for public hearing.
4/12/21.
April?
April.
Yeah, we have a problem.
Sales.
File on 14/21.
What is it?
Dramatically because
one
land
loaded
is.
copy of, perhaps the Francis Ross application?
Oh, that's okay, then Francis Ross is no big deal, because that's not they're just requesting a zoning amendment, they're not, there's no time limit on it.
You don't even have to respond to that.
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing that at all.
You were sent to me.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Shred it.
We never do that.